Hey everyone, Alex Fisher with Intuito Group. I hope you're having a great week so far, and I'm so excited that you've joined me for this short video on something I think is going to have a huge impact on your ability to lead and your organization's ability to move forward with any sort of change or decisions it needs to make during these critical times. And I think it's really timely to have this discussion. I've been using this process with my clients for several months now, and the feedback I'm getting is that without this process, it would have been a very tough and challenging few months as they're sort of pushing through and dealing with new COVID regulations and crisis management and these sorts of things impacting business today. And so today's topic is around polarity management, a process and concept brought forth by Barry Johnson over 15 years ago. And it really is a process to help you identify and manage unsolvable problems. And I'm going to be using some images today. I'll be sharing with you and writing some things on here to help you sort of understand from a 30,000 foot view, but then also some practical ways that you can begin to implement and take on what I would call as a necessary leadership tool for any CEO, business leader, or team lead as you go forth. So let's get right into it. Now you're probably thinking, Alex, you said unsolvable problems, but all problems are solvable, aren't they? And you know what? We've sort of been conditioned into that since we were young. How do you spell cat? C-A-T. Very solvable. 1 + 1 is 2. Who's the first president? George Washington. So we get sort of fixated into that problems have very clear-cut solutions. However, as we sort of evolve into organizations and we lead with teams and we have new experiences, we soon find out that not everything is just an either or situation. And we really end up undercutting our own decision making and our own implementation process when we see everything as an either or situation. So we really have to do a good job of identifying when is it a problem that can be solved versus when is it something that needs to be managed. And so what I want to quickly do is I want to bring up an image that I think will help sort of really showcase what I'm talking about from a high level, and then we can dive into it a little bit further and sort of, this first image here is one I think most people are familiar with. You've probably seen this somewhere before. And it's very similar to, gosh, I think it was several years ago, you might know the sort of the viral video of is it a blue or a gold dress, and even this goblet image has people, no, this is what it is, no, this is what it is, and really we get stuck into these poles of this is accurate, I am right, and that's the way it is. And this becomes very costly and creates serious confrontations in our workplace and organizations if we can't find a way to manage these poles and bring balance versus saying somebody is right over the other. So if I were to give you this image, some of you might say it's a goblet, while some of you might say it's two heads looking at each other. And what I would say is in our decision making, we're looking for two things. We're looking for accuracy and we're looking for completeness. We're looking for accuracy and completeness. Now, if you were to tell me that it's a goblet, you would be accurate. And if you were to say it's two heads looking at each other, you too would be accurate. But we get into these confrontations where we tell someone, no, 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 it's this. And they say, no, 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 it's that. And until we come off of sort of our way of viewing it, we're not getting the complete picture. And this becomes very costly when we're looking to implement changes in our organizations. Is that oftentimes when we're trying to move from where we are to where we want to be, there's a lot of sort of anxiety and fear and resistance. And oftentimes it's because, well, we're stuck on saying who is right and who is wrong versus saying, well, what if both are right and we need to see this thing from a complete view. And it's only when somebody sort of gives up their side of it that you can see that there's more to this picture and there's more value to be had here. And so that's just a quick analogy of sort of the idea of polarity management. But I want to, before I go any further and drill down into it, I really want to see if I can't get you motivated to stay with me here for a minute. So let me give you 5 reasons I think you should begin implementing this tool or reaching out to someone to help you implement this within your organization. So let's start with the first one. And the first one is about time and energy. And when I work with my clients, they spend a whole lot of time and they spend a whole lot of energy solving problems and then saying, I've already solved this problem several times, or it's taking me a whole lot of energy to get people on board and to move this thing forward. And what I say to them is, one, maybe it's not a problem that's solved and needs to be managed. And maybe that's why you're having to solve it again, is because you haven't managed it right. And maybe the reason why people aren't getting on board is because their sort of anxieties, their fears, and their sort of apprehension isn't being acknowledged. Therefore, the decision to go forward isn't fully understood. And so that is one reason you should bring it on. The next one, it kind of goes along with that, is the idea of resistance. Resistance is natural in an organization. We're in this, and that's why this is so timely right now. Things are changing all the time. Companies are having to navigate into new markets or new decisions, and there's resistance. There's that apprehension, that fear. And a process like this helps elevate that resistance. It doesn't put it in the corner. It doesn't meet it with more force. What it says is, I will embrace this resistance. I'm going to lean into this resistance, because when we acknowledge it, then that allows somebody to say, yes, I was heard. My way of looking at this was heard and is incorporated into the decision-making process. When people feel they're heard, they then open themselves up. And that goes to the next point, is that your negotiations, and your mediations will improve. And negotiations from the standpoint of, like I just said, when you acknowledge somebody else and you can come off of your pole to somebody else's, it really opens the door for more people to come and see things your way and to get them on board. Now, there's a lot of conflict too. If you're somebody who needs to be in the middle of what direction are we going, you can use this process to help mediate between 2 opposing views. I think F. Scott Fitzgerald had said, real intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposing views at the same time and still get the value out of it, and still the ability to move forward. And so we want to be able to maximize all that value. We don't want to leave value when we're making decisions still on the table. The next reason is your ability to anticipate. Now, this is something I think all leaders want to be able to see is, and let me go, anticipate and minimize problems. Okay? We need to be able to anticipate. It's very hard right now when our faculties are being cut off because of stress and because of fears and this sort of stuff. This process keeps us grounded. And oftentimes right now we're very reactive, and so we're working in the business, not on the business, and we got to get back to anticipating what's going to come ahead, and then minimize any problems we see going forward. So when we can bring other points of view in, that we're not blinded by our own way of viewing things, when it comes to a problem that should be managed, we really end up being able to show how we can see things before they happen and really not get caught up in a lot of problems that are unnecessary. And the last is going to be the improvement in your decision making. And this is something I think all individuals, whether all people are leaders within an organization, but at any level, when decisions are so critical right now, the impact is far exceeded and really expanded. When people see bad decisions now, it's like, whoa, I can see it so clearly. Yeah, in a crisis, you see bad decisions very clearly. When things are good, bad decisions kind of go under the sort of surface. So if you can improve your decision making, people notice that. They want to be involved in it. They feel a part of it. They gravitate towards it. They'll come back for you for more decisions. So this is something that is going to accelerate how you're viewed and the perception of you as a leader in totality. So hopefully those 5 points there, you hung with me there and allow me to just continue and give you one more example on kind of how we can use polarity management going forward. I'm going to go ahead and take these off the screen. So I want to talk again about the difference between the two real quickly. So in identifying a problem to be solved versus managed, problems that are to be solved are either or problems, either this or that. Either I choose this restaurant or that restaurant. The decision is not ongoing. Once I make a decision, it's done. And it has an endpoint. And there's, independent solutions. They're not really dependent on each other. The reason to go to this restaurant or that, they're not really conflicting with each other. And so I can easily solve that. But polarities that are to be managed, again, are ongoing problems. They're both and, not either or, both and. And they're ongoing. They're ongoing issues. And we sometimes do it in planning and action. A company's ability to plan versus act is an ongoing management. You have to see where you're at right now and what you need to do to move forward into that other zone of action if you're stuck in planning. If you just stay in planning, then nothing ever gets done. But then you could also go into just, action. And if you stay over there too long on that pole, well, then you might be putting your ladder on the wrong wall, and you also might not be able to stop and see things and crucial decisions that need to be made. And so these are the polarities, and they're interdependent solutions on each other. I want to give you a good example of the two of them right here. Something most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with, and it's around the probably the most important thing to life. Breathing. Breathing is a great example, and when we talk polarity management, we ask organizations, are you a breathing organization? And they sort of step back and look and say, well, what do you mean? Well, let me just like the planning versus the acting. If I were to say to you, what's the solution to breathing? Well, first of all, if we don't breathe, we die. So we need breathing to live. But there's two poles, right? So it's an ongoing thing. We need to keep breathing. That's the sort of in check box of number one. Is it ongoing? Yes, we need to keep breathing in order to continue to live. And the next is, are there two interdependent solutions that both are necessary in order to breathe optimally? And what you see here is on the poles we have inhale and we have exhale. And we use the infinity symbol to show the cycle of how we can get stuck in one side of these moors. If I say, okay, well, inhaling is the solution, well, then just keep inhaling and see what happens. Well, if we stay inhaling for too long, we get down here and too much carbon dioxide. Well, quickly we have to find out, I have to exhale. But then if I just stay over there exhaling all the time, then I'm not really incorporating any oxygen into it. And so what we're trying to manage is to not get stuck on one side of the pole or other, to bring these things into balance and to not allow ourselves to just stay on one side of it and just get stuck. And so we need to manage those poles. So just to wrap up, in order to identify whether or not you have a polarity to manage, is it ongoing? Is it recurring? And are there two interdependent solutions? Those are how you can quickly identify what you're dealing with. Now, practically, you can work with this on an individual or team level, but it's oftentimes very tough to facilitate polarity management and also be involved in the decision-making process as well. And so bringing in somebody to help move that along until you can take it on, or you are not necessarily involved in the decision-making so you can facilitate it, learning the process well enough to do it effectively. So reaching out, I'm going to leave some information here. Give me a call, schedule some time. I'll help you work through it. We'll identify whether or not you really have a problem to manage and what sort of ways can you begin bringing this in and really elevating your decision making, getting people on board at record speed, and start creating some real impact within your business in a critical time when it's so necessary. I thank you for taking a couple minutes to stay with me here. I look forward to sharing more of these tools in the upcoming weeks. Reach out to me if you need any help with anything. That's what we're here for. Have a great week.